My name is Marie Gladue. Gladue is a French-Canadian name because I married a Cree Indian up from Canada, and so I took on that name and basically kept it because I figure what you call the colonizers naming of you is not important. It's just a name. So the way we introduce ourselves that is important is by our clients. So I want to introduce myself in such a way that I am from the Edgewater clan, people from ancient times that originated right exactly from this place. And I am born for a clan called the Mini-Goat clan, formerly the Red House clan, also connected to the Tsunajini clan. And then this is my mother, Catherine Smith. I'm introducing myself in that way by showing her a picture because I'm honoring my lineage with my clan that I am, but also that she is one of the people, not just because she's my mother, but she is one of the people that has shown me that why it is important to work against the injustices that has happened in our community. And she is, in our community, very well known as a resistor, they call it, but also as an activist, somebody who is willing to lay down her life to fight for her land. She's still alive. She's 95 years old. And I live in a place known as Big Mountain, Zutnitsa. And so that mountain is a very famous place. If you're familiar with a lot of activism in the United States around indigenous issues, Big Mountain is very well known. But what we do here, I showed a shot of sheep. Those are the sheep that I currently raise with my partner Arvin. And this is located in the Black Mesa region, right in this region. Our traditional homelands, we call it Deneta, marked by the 4 sacred mountains. It covers the state of Arizona, goes into the state of New Mexico, it goes into the state of Colorado, and it goes into the state of Utah. And these are the mountains. The first sacred mountain over here, it's in Najini, see? It's way over here. So it's Mount Taylor, that's like around Zuni. San Francisco Peaks, which is right here. And then the Bensa, Big Sheep Mountain. So that's how we view like our landscape and our traditional territories. And the rivers play a part of it. Like the Colorado River, the Little Colorado River, the San Juan River, the Rio Grande. The way that we envision it is like it kind of circles the territories. One side's a female river, one side's a male river. Some of these boundaries are created as a result of what we call the Navajo-Hopi land dispute. Land conflict relocated over 18,000 Navajo families. And why I say families is that a family can have 10 children in there. So we're not counting individuals, we're counting families. So this portion here now belongs to the Hopi tribe. But see, I'm a Navajo, and I live somewhere in this area on the Hopi reservation. Why it happened that way is that when this whole land conflict really ensued, I must have been like about 10 or something, and I remember that the way that this whole thing was framed was that this is Hopi land, it was Hopi land formerly, and you guys just squatted here and you are the aggressor. Those were all the framings, you know, that was taken to the courts. And so as a result, we lost a huge chunk of land. But some of these people that remained, they resisted. And that became like almost a 40-year resistance in that land for them to remain there. How we viewed land and its resources originally. We viewed Deneta as that it's our home. That is, if you can visualize what we call a hogan. It's like a round structure with an entryway from the east. And so these mountains that are here, that is considered like a pillar, and the sky is the dome to our home. This landscape that I'm talking about, it really holds some teachings, some powerful teachings for us how to live. Like we have place names, that always teach the values of right and wrong, good and evil, like Black Mesa. Black Mesa we view as a female mountain, so she is our mother. And then, this really is also reinforce how we view the universe. And this is symbolic. This isn't just a picture for beauty. This is an actual sand painting of how they would paint for the ceremony. What it represents is Father Sky and Mother Earth. The rainbow is important as well. So all the symbols, all the stars have like different meanings. So this we carry throughout our ceremonies. This side here, that side is the man mountain. And how we view that in our Hogan-scape is that when you go inside the Hogan, one side, during ceremonies, one side of the Hogan, the men sit, that's the male side. You go counterclockwise, this side the female sit. What it represents is balance between male life, female life. This is necessary for life to carry, and it's just not about human, it's about any kind of life. Since 1964, Black Mesa has been mined. We have 2 mines on that area. It's called Black Mesa Mine, which was shut down 2005, I think, and then Kayenta Mine, which is still operating. The Cheska Mountains, they're doing fracking. They're doing fracking there. So as far as water, today, you have a power plant that's sitting up at, where Lake Powell is, right? The Page region. When you go south towards Utah, you have a power plant that sits up there that generates a lot of power. And when you have operations like power plants, coal mines, it needs water. It needs water to wash the coal. It needs water to wash down the roads. And in Peabody's case, at one time, they were using it to slur coal. So their interest here is more in the Black Mesa region. It was about the Navajo aquifer, ice age water that lies beneath Black Mesa. So everybody's at the trough with their bucket, trying to get their water rights. And this is what's been happening the last 5 years on the Navajo reservation, the Hopi reservation. The government people and whoever has interest have been trying to get us to settle. But really, in reality, you look at that document and it's not even a drop of water, really, in reality, compared to everybody else that's lined up before us. They had one document where if it were drought, we're not first in line. If there's a drought, then maybe there might not be anything in our bucket. So now it's kind of underground. We don't really know what's going on exactly. From the coal mining, why the interest in coal? So this is where I wanted to start to kind of tie things together. As time has gone on, the people, in my community, remember I said there was a lot of resistance. And what happened in that history was we had traditional Hopi people who would come and support the Navajo people who were resisting relocation. In the Hopi community, that were people who were in the government, people who were more what they call progressive, they call them. People who didn't really kind of hang on to traditional things. They're more westernized. They bought into this narrative of that the Navajos were not rightly there and so forth. And who was the first comer to this land? All those things played into this. As time went on, we found out that coal was the real motive for the whole land conflict. It was to get access to the coal in Black Mesa because it's one of the highest quality coals that you can find. Low sulfur, It's near the surface where like you don't have to dig way underneath, you know, and there lied like an abundant amount of water, and this is like good drinking water. In the background, what was happening is that you had a lawyer named John Boyden. But people did find out that he was working, he was being paid by Peabody Coal, but he also was a lawyer, a general attorney for the Hopi tribe. That's a conflict of interest. It's not right. Because during that time, in all this negotiation, they got like pennies for their ton of coal that they would sell. They practically got nothing for the water rights that they gave up to the little Colorado River so that they could cool this power plant. 50,000 acre feet, I think is what should have belonged to the Navajo. So they did that until 2005 because people started to really protest the use of that water. We started to feel, although all these government people and things don't believe us, but we know on the land. I remember as a child, you could go there, you could get there was a spring there, there was a seeping spring there, there was a seeping spring over in the wash and went up the mountain. There were springs all over the place. Today, there's nothing. The people were really getting concerned because they really felt that all this pumping was affecting the vegetation, like the groundwater wasn't recharging itself like the way it should be recharging. You only know what that feels like unless you have experienced it directly. When you have lost practically your whole community, practically all your clan member people, all the places where you know like these people have lived for many generations, and all you see is like nothing, not even like that there was like a home site there. There was a generation of people, and there's still some people here in our community who view landscape in a sacred way, that it should be respected, that things need to be in balance. When I say in balance, I'm not talking about some new agey thing. I'm talking about if your groundwater is being depleted and it's not being recharged, that's an unbalance. If you are digging coal like in Black Mesa, you know, for us it's like, it's very painful because we see this mountain as being alive, actually alive, as a woman being. So to us, it's like she is being raped every day, for what? For money, for one thing. What really, really gets me is that this community here, we have the resources, we have the food, we have all kinds of resources that should really belong to that community. But I live in a community where I live today, I don't have electricity. I don't have running water. I don't even have a paved road that comes near my house. So today, when I had to be here, and I woke up this morning and it was rainy, cloudy, and I thought, you know, there's a worry there that if it rained all day, I'm not going to get out of there. If you don't realize the history, I mean, I just told you very briefly, the whole Navajo-Hopi land conflict was set up because they wanted to get at the coal very cheaply. Places like Phoenix at the time, folks like Senator Barry Goldwater had a great interest in making the city grow. And so what did they do? You know, they got their deal for the coal at a cheap rate, their water for practically free, and then they're exported out of the reservation. When we're out in Black Mesa, which is like a ways from the power plant, we're clear over here, sometimes by, like in the morning, and sometimes in the evening, you see like this haze coming over. And because we live right in a mountain range, by the time it gets cool, it goes right into the canyon. In the morning, it rises again. So we are also paying the price for the pollution that is being produced, as well as the depletion of our groundwater when people don't have running water themselves. as well as the extraction of coal that somebody else is making a lot of money off of, and whatever is being produced is not being produced here or given to the community, but instead, so I always say we are the breadbasket of the Southwest, because I feel like that's what it is. The people down here, they benefit. The city of Phoenix has grown humongously the last 10 years, and I'm sure people who know, if you live down there, you would know that. So I ask again, every time, especially, sorry to pick on the people that live in Phoenix, but I just kind of think it's a real ridiculous place to live. It's in the desert, for Christ's sakes, There's no water there, And pretty soon, because the groundwater has been depleted, you start to have sinkholes. The ground just start to, that's what's happening in Black Mesa. For the last, 14 years or so, maybe less than that, I made a conscious choice to move back to my community. Not to have a want for having a shower 3 times a day, like my mother sometimes says. Not having a want for just material things and consumption, trying to reuse things and just trying to be conscious of that. The coal is being extracted, and that we have land that is dying because of it. But you have other people that are benefiting from it, but nothing is coming back up to the communities, So I would say, recognize your place in this. We've made ourselves too comfortable, meaning that we think we can just have access to a light switch, that we can just have access to a faucet. My mother tells me that her grandparents told her, don't ever think that your life is just going to be constantly the same, because sometimes the world changes drastically. And not to scare anybody, but I feel like that's where we're going. So it's a practice, I think, and how you carry your life every day. Just turning off the light switch when you're not using it, turning off things that when you don't need to use it, especially not being wasteful with water, because water is so precious. We're going to come to a time where maybe it's our children, maybe it's our grandchildren, they're not going to know what real good water tastes like. Some of us probably don't actually. I can't stand drinking Flagstaff water. I'm spoiled that way. The Navajo aquifer water. It doesn't make sense to me to waste water that is perfectly good on a mining operation, So things like this, you are the generation that has to kind of like flip kind of that way of, what's become the American way of consuming things. Because you can't consume forever. Things run out at some point. And we can't think of it as, in the beginning I said, who has a skill? In our way, Sundance is a ceremony. I went through some of that. One of the things that we were taught there is if something is needed in a way where you're going to help the community or help the group, you should never hold back, because you were given that gift, to do that, to help in some way. So why I'm saying that is because in general, we all think in, not all, but a lot of us think in more like in an individualistic way. That it's just this little part here, what I do is what I do, and it's none of your business. No, part of it is really about community. And it's probably the hardest thing because, like I said, I did environmental activism, social justice, and it meant like organizing people. And it's hard to do. You might have an idea, an idealistic idea, but when you bring people together, you see that it really requires, recognizing the skills of people and how do you create it so that people work together rather than fight like this. And that's what it's going to take, coming together and working together. So those are some of the things I wanted to leave with you. And this is part of the protests. I think it's the Black Mesa Water Coalition sign. Like I said, we believe that the sacred female mountain and the waters are alive. And I mean Black Mesa in this sense. You ever notice how they use coal to filter water? So it behaves like a liver in the water with the water. Don't look at landscape as a thing or just an object, you know, and start to look at landscape and nature as something that is alive. There's a liver, there's a heart, there's a head, there's the legs, there's the arms. Somebody told me this and it really hit me. What they don't want they don't want nobody having that much freedom. It's a lot of freedom, actually. You know, you walk out your door today and there's a $1 trillion real estate view. Same with the evening. And you can roam the landscape. Today, it feels like we aren't communicating, we aren't listening. This is why we have a situation of this climate crisis. And you have the situation of people not buying into it because they're so concentrated on the material, physical world. The west direction as well is somewhat neglected. At least in my community, I think so, because of what I call broken communities, due to oppression from, you know, when the West was being created here. We were not being lifted up. We were being suppressed and oppressed, and all kinds of tactics and things were in place to do that. So that's what we're walking around with today, added to the land conflict trauma. So there's a great need for healing in indigenous communities, but I also say there's a great need for healing in non-indigenous communities, and this is what we also need to recognize, you know? We need to recognize this. We're all walking around so wounded and not thinking clearly. So that's what I'm talking about, balance, and that's what my thesis is about, and this is what I'm hoping to bring, you know, to the academia, and I'm hoping not only the academia but my own people. So that's what I've been having doing my work, and I'm still working on it.